Hey everyone, Vanessa Hokel here. I'm gonna give it a minute for people to get on here. Just doing a quick one, quickie, to answer Katie Hopkins' question that she had on her page about personal hauntings, some of where the confusion lies on whether or not it's a demon, this, that, and the other. So we all know I get long-winded, and typing about it is going to be time consuming. Hi, Katie, darling. So I figured I'd do it here. Okay. So I believe her question was that when paranormal investigation teams are helping people, at private residences, what is it that makes people automatically assume that what they have got going on is, hi y'all, is demonic in nature? And somebody else put an answer there, real quick answer, hi y'all, and it's true. It's true that it is TV, because let's face it, if it isn't a demon on particular shows, then it isn't worthy of discussion. That's on their show. That's not reality. Okay? They might call it reality television. That ain't fucking reality. So, let's see. Yeah, correct. That is her question. Here's the thing. This is what I have figured out over my many moons of doing this. Now, I am by no means an expert. In case anybody hasn't figured this out yet, they ain't no experts in this field, regardless of what people want to say. There just isn't. So, again, if somebody says they are, haul ass. Get the fuck out of there, because ain't no experts in this field. Are people more experienced than others? That's absolutely true. That is true. But this is not a scientific field, therefore, can't be an expert. All right? But you can be experienced, which I am. The way that I understand it, based on my personal experiences, is I understand where the need to want to believe that something is evil based on what has happened to you. Like if it's in your private residence and it feels aggressive, and you feel threatened. I get it. I get wanting to believe that it's something negative, because then that allows you to feel a certain way about it and to possibly get a different type of help to take care of it. And it also gets you a little bit more attention. Let's face it, it's true. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass. Let's face it, you say demon, people's ears perk up. Okay? But what I have come to find in many cases, I would say 90% of the cases that I've dealt with, whether it's a private residence, or whether it is a public venue, whether it's remote viewing or whatever, is it's not a demon, and B, what people need to understand is how spirits will try to make contact with you. I want you to just for a moment think back, especially all of us parents, think back to when we first held our babies in our arms and your little one grabs your finger and you're like, whoa, I'm going to have a linebacker, right? Because they're so strong. There's a very specific reason for that. And that's because they don't have the need to judge how much they can squeeze and how much they shouldn't squeeze. So there's nothing stopping them. There's no instinct saying this is too much. You can actually have same situations happen when you're talking about spirit communication, especially if you're talking about spirit communication with a child. Okay? They're not going to have the same boundaries, at least in my experience. Not speaking for everybody. But they're not going to have the same boundaries that an adult will. Okay? The other thing, and this is really important, what I want you to understand is, again, put yourself in a different situation. Think about what it would be like if all of your mobility was gone. Let's say that you'd been in a coma and you're having to go through physical therapy. Okay? So everything about you has been compromised. And you're going through that physical therapy and you're doing what you need to do and you're slowly but surely making movement, right? Well, have you ever watched somebody do physical therapy and all of a sudden, they have focused so hard on trying to do the smallest of movements that focus actually makes them forceful, and they're able to jerk with great force or hit their hand or any of those things that we take for granted. It's true. Okay? That is another reason why when you're dealing with spirit communication and you feel a touch on you or something like that it can feel aggressive. And I'm not saying it isn't aggressive sometimes, but it can feel aggressive due to the exertion and the amount of energy that is having to be focused for the smallest act. Okay? Think about that. It explains a lot. The other thing, and this is the most important thing, out of everything I could tell you, those last two things, of everything I could tell you, this is the most important, and what I've run into, especially when I was remote viewing for a private case in England. When you're dealing with a spirit, most people, I guess because of certain shows and everything, want to believe that when you pass, that any ailments and any issues that you have might be gone. Might be they're no longer an issue for you. That would be wonderful if that was always the case. However, it's not. And at least in my experience, in how I've dealt with things and in what I've come across, I was remote viewing for a case they thought possibly was demonic or at least aggressive, very aggressive. And what it actually was an adult male who was autistic. Think about that. Think about the mentality behind that. Think about the emotions behind that. Think of a response that you might get, but factor in the diminished mentality. You could have a 30-year-old deceased male that has the mentality of a 5-year-old. Think about that. When you're dealing with a spirit, when you are trying to communicate, you have to take all of these factors into consideration. You can't automatically assume that because this and this and this is happening, that you know for a fact what it is. In a sense, you've kind of got to be a detective. You can't just be a communicator. You need to, if you're starting to believe or you're given the idea that there might be something else going on, come up with a list of standard questions that you know the answers to, or that you know how they would be answered by different types of people, different ages, different genders, different ethnicities. Okay? Just have yourself a little cheat sheet and give yourself time to talk to them. See if you can get any type of reaction, whether it's an emotional feeling that you receive off them, whether it is verbal communication, whether it's physical, and see how it falls into these categories. Okay? One of the reasons that this particular spirit was so aggressive was he had a much younger mentality than what you would expect. Much, much younger. B, he was frustrated because he's communicating mentally, hey love, like a small child, but has the strength of a very much grown man. And when he's not receiving the feedback that the small child in him wishes for, his body can't help but react in the way that a grown man would. Do you get it? You see what I'm talking about? That's one of the reasons why whenever I see people automatically assuming that something is negative or demonic or angry or, yes, Kristen, my pair of balls are bigger than yours. I'm getting that on a t-shirt. It just makes me so angry when I see people jumping to such conclusions about what they're speaking with, when in fact it just seems to be the rationale to forget that these were people. These are people. They've passed away. Some still want to talk. Some still want to talk a lot. Some not so much. Some are mute. Some can't hear properly. Some deal better with touch. Some deal better with kind of reading your mind and bringing forth a certain scent or a picture in your mind to explain where they are, where they're at in their journey. There are so many different ways for spirit to communicate with you that to minimalize it to something so unbelievably small is not only irresponsible, it's disrespectful. I think people forget that they have way more knowledge than we do. It's just they're not sitting in front of us like Joe Blow on the bus seat next to you and able to communicate in that fashion. But they have many, many ways to do so. All I ask of people, and now if you are fairly certain that what you're dealing with is extremely negative, be it demonic or be it just a very angry spirit, do what you have to do to protect yourself. You don't have to stay in that situation. And just, practice self-care. But don't go into a situation automatically assuming that's what you're going to get. Because you might miss some really interesting conversation with somebody who knows a fuck ton more than you do. They're in the place or doing the things that we all have questions about. And like I've said it before, it's somebody's grandmother or grandfather or mother or father or brother, sister, child, niece, best friend, whatever. These are people. People. And to automatically assume and to go into every situation not only expecting but hoping for something negative is kind of the big old fuck you to those who wish to speak with us. So, again, remember, have yourself a little cheat sheet. Figure out a list of questions. Kind of have it, where how somebody would respond to those questions. Make it real simple. Real simple. But we all know how a 4-year-old responds. We all know how a 15-year-old responds. We all know how a 30-year-old might respond. Listen for other things. I have actually gotten an extensive amount of communication through Morse code. True story. I've gotten an extensive amount of communication through knocking, answering my questions based on how many knocks. And this is on a barn that didn't have an upstairs. And it was coming from what was not an upstairs, but it was up there. And there was definite pounding. So there's all different ways to communicate. All different ways. You just have to explore them all. Explore them all. Don't assume you're smarter than what's out there. Give them a chance to respond. Give them a chance to get their story out there. And be sweet about it. Okay? Like I said, they know way more than we do. They're in a place we've never been before. and yet they still want to talk to us about it. So, anyway, everybody's telling me I froze for some reason, so it's not doing that on my end, but I love y'all. Hold it. What did Charles say? That's how I should have you remote view my basement sometime. Oh, thank you, Charles. Thank you. Remember I told you about your fella down there. So, anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Mwah. Big kisses.